You've been lied to. You were told that to keep a woman, you have to constantly reassure her, always be available, and never let her feel unsure about how you feel. But let me ask you something real. Has that ever made her stay? Has giving her every ounce of your attention ever made her more obsessed, more devoted, more connected to you? Or did it make her take you for granted, get bored, and slowly pull away? Here's what they don't want you to know. Women are emotionally addicted to uncertainty. Not chaos, not toxicity, but uncertainty. That feeling of not fully knowing where they stand with you, that tiny space of doubt that lingers in the background, it activates something deep in the female psyche. It pulls her in. It makes her question herself. And that question leads to emotional investment. When you're predictable, always available, always responding with the same energy no matter what, she feels safe, yes, but not drawn in. She knows exactly how the story ends, so she stops reading. The excitement is gone. But when you introduce a little mystery, when you shift your energy, when she starts wondering why you didn't respond right away, or why you didn't look as eager the last time you saw her, that's when her mind starts working overtime. And once she starts thinking about you more than you think about her, the dynamic changes completely. But this doesn't mean being manipulative. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding that desire is fueled by imagination, not certainty. When she doesn't know what you'll do next, when your emotions aren't on a silver platter every second, she becomes more invested in figuring you out. She analyzes your tone, replays your messages, reconsiders your silence. She leans in. Most men lose a woman not because they're bad partners, but because they reveal too much too fast. They kill the mystery. They remove the emotional tension that women secretly crave. You ever notice how the guy who barely texts her back has her wrapped around his finger, but the one who's always available ends up in her friend zone? That's no accident. That's biology. That's psychology. That's emotional dynamics at play. You want to be the one she thinks about before bed and the first thing in the morning? Don't be the man who gives her everything up front. Be the man who gives her just enough to stay curious, make her feel you, miss you, and most of all, wonder about you. Because in that wondering, she'll find herself emotionally tied to you in ways she can't even explain. The moment she feels like she can't quite figure you out, that's the moment she'll never want to let you go. You're doing too much, and that's exactly why she's doing less. If you've ever wondered why the more love, attention, and effort you give, the more distant she becomes, it's because you've unknowingly become her drug dealer. And the drug? Your attention. And like any drug, once it's overused and too easily available, it loses its high. It stops feeling valuable. It stops making her feel anything at all. You think being consistent, texting her every morning, complimenting her all the time, being there no matter what, will prove you're the man who won't leave. But instead, all it does is remove the very thing that made her excited about you in the first place: scarcity. She knows you'll text, she knows you'll call, she knows no matter how she behaves, you'll still be there. And that's when she starts to pull away. Women don't fall for men who pour it all out too soon. They fall for the ones who make their attention feel earned. When you were first talking, you probably had a little edge. Maybe you took your time replying. Maybe you weren't so emotionally invested. And back then, she couldn't get enough of you. She was texting first. She was trying to get closer. But the moment she felt that she had full access to you, the game changed. Not because she's playing games, but because human nature works that way. When something becomes too easy to get, it becomes easier to ignore. And that's why withdrawing your attention isn't about being mean. It's not about punishment. It's about rebalancing the dynamic. You're not here to give your energy to someone who hasn't shown they value it. The truth is, the moment you start pulling back, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, she'll feel the shift. And the reaction? Almost immediate. She'll start asking questions, wondering where you went, what happened, why you're not as available. That's not a coincidence. That's emotional gravity doing its work. Most men never get this far. They keep pushing, thinking effort equals love. But smart men, men who understand value, they know attention is a currency, and the more rare it is, the more she craves it. You don't need to ghost her. You don't need to be cold. You simply need to stop overgiving and start observing. Watch how fast the dynamic shifts once she realizes your attention isn't a guarantee, it's a gift. Because the moment you stop handing it out like it means nothing is the moment she'll treat it like it means everything. If you really want to know the turning point, the exact moment everything shifts in your favor, it's when you stop chasing her and start chasing you. The second your life, your growth, your purpose becomes more important than her reactions or her approval, that's when the power dynamic flips. Most men never experience this shift because they've been conditioned to believe that being a good man means putting her first at all costs. But the truth is, putting her on a pedestal only makes her look down on you. Women don't fall for men who orbit their world. They fall for men who have their own world and invite her in. That kind of energy, that grounded masculine focus, it's magnetic. When a man is unapologetically focused on his mission, when he's building, evolving, becoming, he radiates something that no fake alpha attitude can replicate. It's not arrogance, it's not distance. It's a quiet confidence that says, I'm good with or without you. And that, right there, is what triggers her deepest desire. You see, when she feels that your world doesn't collapse without her, when she knows your emotions aren't tied to her every move, she starts to see you differently. She respects you more. She leans in. She wants to be part of that world, not because you begged her to be, but because she can feel that it's already full without her. Now think about how most men behave when they like a woman. They start shrinking their lives, canceling plans, putting dreams on hold just to be more available. At first, it might look sweet, but over time it becomes suffocating. You lose your edge, and she feels it. A woman cannot fully respect a man who abandons himself for her. She might enjoy the attention, but she won't truly desire him. But when you flip the script, when your goals, your discipline, your mindset come first, everything changes. You stop overthinking her silence. You stop analyzing her texts. You don't feel shaken when she pulls away. Why? Because your life is already rich and full, and you're not waiting for her to give it meaning. That energy, it's rare, and women feel it instantly. Suddenly, she's the one wondering what you're doing. She's trying to understand why you're not as reactive, why you're not moved by her little tests, why you're not chasing like every other man she's known. And the truth is, it's because you're finally chasing you. And once she feels that you've stopped needing her, that's when she starts needing you. The biggest mistake men make today is thinking they have to prove themselves to women, that they have to compete with her standards, her expectations, her ego. But the truth, the moment you try to measure up to her, you've already lost. Because women aren't attracted to men they can control. They're drawn to men they have to earn. And the moment you stop putting her on a pedestal is the moment she starts climbing to reach you. You're not supposed to impress her. You're not supposed to convince her of your worth. When you walk into a room, your energy should already say, I know who I am. I don't need your validation. That's the energy that sets you apart from every other man she's used to. Most of them are busy bending over backwards, trying to win her attention. But you're not chasing her. You're focused on your life. You're moving with purpose. And she feels that difference instantly. Think about how the game really works. When a woman gets constant validation, her ego inflates. She knows she's being chased. She knows she can do the bare minimum and still be admired. But the moment you step back and no longer feed that ego, something inside her shifts. She starts to notice your absence. She starts to wonder why you're not behaving like the rest. And that curiosity, it turns into attraction. She starts competing with her own ego to figure you out, to regain the feeling of being desired. But here's where it gets even more powerful. When she realizes that you're not playing her game anymore, she has no choice but to enter yours. She has to step up. She has to show up differently. Suddenly, she's the one initiating conversations, trying harder, giving more. And it's not because you manipulated her. It's because you stopped trying to prove anything at all. See, women admire men who hold their frame, men who don't flinch at silence, men who stay calm when things get unpredictable. It's not dominance, it's discipline, and that discipline forces her to choose, either rise to your level or walk away. And if she walks, you let her, because your worth doesn't shrink just because she couldn't see it. This is how you shift from being the pursuer to being the prize. When you stop engaging her ego and start standing in your truth, you force her to show who she really is without all the power plays. And once she realizes she's the one trying to impress you, everything changes. Because the moment you stop competing for her is the moment she starts competing for you. You saying too much and it's ruining your power. Every time you explain yourself over text or rush to clear the air, you give away pieces of your mystery, pieces of your presence. What most men don't understand is that silence isn't just absence, it's presence in its most powerful form. When used correctly, silence speaks louder than any words you could say. It creates space, tension, reflection. It lingers in her mind long after your voice would have faded.
Men are taught that communication fixes everything. Say what you feel, express your intentions, make sure she knows how much you care. But in the emotional world of attraction, that constant need to talk often drowns out the most important tool you have, your energy. And when you go quiet intentionally, not emotionally withdrawn, but centered in yourself, something very interesting happens. She starts thinking, she starts playing back the last thing you said. She starts wondering why your energy shifted. She notices that you're not reacting, not chasing, not explaining. And her mind begins to spiral. That silence becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, she sees her own behavior more clearly. Where you once filled the space with reassurance, now there's only space. And in that space, her curiosity grows, her emotions begin to rise. She begins to ask herself, did I say something wrong? Did I go too far? Is he losing interest? You don't need to answer her questions. The questions themselves are the answer. Because the moment she starts thinking like that, the dynamic has shifted. You've moved from reactive to reflective. And in that reflection, she's no longer in control of the emotional current. You are. The beauty of well-placed silence is that it forces clarity. You don't need to defend yourself when she's upset. You don't need to text paragraphs to explain your mood. Your stillness makes her feel your presence more deeply than your words ever could. And the longer that silence stretches, the more meaningful it becomes. It's not that you're ignoring her, it's that you're unbothered, and that unbothered energy is irresistible. Let her reach out first. Let her sit with the discomfort of not knowing exactly where you stand. That space will either bring her closer or reveal the truth you've been avoiding. Either way, you win because now you're not overexposed. You're not giving your energy away for free. You're letting your absence speak volumes. And in that absence, she finally starts to feel your value. Because the less you speak, the more she thinks. You want to know the fastest way to get stuck in her head, to live rent-free in her thoughts, even when you're not around. It's not flowers. It's not compliments. It's not even good sex. It's emotional detachment. The moment she feels like you've pulled your emotions away from her, like she no longer has access to that part of you, that's when obsession begins. Not because you hurt her, but because you've become unpredictable. And unpredictability is the most intoxicating emotional trigger. When she senses you're no longer emotionally invested the way you used to be, her mind starts racing. Women are incredibly intuitive, emotionally sensitive beings. They can feel shifts in your energy before you even say a word. So when you start pulling back, not in anger, but in complete inner peace, she notices it immediately. You're no longer texting as fast. You're not engaging as deeply. You're present, but emotionally distant. In that shift, it messes with her sense of control. She starts wondering, did I do something wrong? Is he losing interest? Who else has his attention? Why isn't he reacting the way he used to? These questions don't create answers, they create attachment. She's no longer operating from comfort. She's operating from curiosity, from anxiety, from desire. You're no longer predictable, and that unpredictability keeps her coming back again and again just to try and figure you out. And the irony, you didn't ghost her. You didn't become rude. You just stopped feeding the emotional cycle she was used to. That constant stream of validation, of instant replies, of emotional openness. You turned off the tap. And now she's thirsty for it because what once felt abundant now feels rare, and nothing, absolutely nothing, makes a person crave something more than when they believe they've lost access to it. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overinvesting. You stop making her your emotional center. You stop tying your piece to her mood swings. Instead, you shift the focus back to yourself, your mind, your purpose, your energy. And she feels that shift in every interaction. She realizes she doesn't have the grip on you she thought she had. That's when she starts chasing, not for attention, but to reclaim the emotional access she once took for granted. This is how obsession is built, not through pressure, but through presence followed by absence. Give her the warmth, the connection, the energy, and then pull it back, not as punishment, but as recalibration. When you master that balance, she will never see you the same again. Because the moment you emotionally detach is the moment she becomes emotionally hooked.